What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here to recap the weekend that was in the NFL Divisional round. 4 games, 2 involving our teams here at Birds vs. Boys, and we were so close to a full BVB NFC Championship, which would have obviously been great for this podcast. But alas, the Cowboys did not hold up their end to the bargain. So we'll go over both games, but we'll focus on the Eagles the most. My Eagles back in the NFC Championship for the 7th time in my life. Aside from the Patriots, you can make the case that the Eagles have been the best team since the turn of the century in 2000. And in my lifetime, I have zero complaints with how things have gone. And yet another NFC Championship appearance and hopefully another Super Bowl appearance. So they beat the Giants 38-7. It never really felt close. There was palpable energy in the crowd. I was there at the game, and it just kind of felt like we knew. We knew where this game was going. We knew that we were the better team. We knew that we were more talented at every single positional group, and it played out that way in a hurry. The Eagles scored on the first drive. They got a 3. They forced a punt on the first drive for the Giants. They scored another touchdown. It's 14-0. Daniel Jones throws a pick. All of a sudden, it's 28-0 at halftime. And we talk all the time about the Eagles crowds and the home field advantage and everything like that. It was kind of like a party in the second half. It wasn't even really that loud. We were all just chilling. We knew it was over. In the first half, I was getting the notifications on my Apple Watch saying it was too loud of an environment. I could cause hearing loss. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll go deaf for another Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now. So I am very excited with how that game played out. I don't think I have any complaints because it's exactly how you expected it to go. When we did our show last week and we were previewing these games, we said the only way that the Eagles could lose this game is if they did it themselves. Well, they didn't turn the ball over. Jalen Hurts played well. He was back. He was efficient with his arms and his legs. We'll get into the ground game for the Eagles too, but just they were flawless execution, and they knew that they were the better team, and they showed it immediately. They did not play with their food. They just ate it up. It was crazy. It was like one of those Piranha movies where they feel the blood in the water. Piranha 3D. Remember when that was a big thing? Blood in the water, and all of a sudden the limbs would be gone. I don't know why we were watching that when we were like 13 years old, but we were. Now it sticks out in my head as to how this game went. So Jalen Hurts definitely back. He was completely effective as a dual threat again. You didn't see a lot of running from him, but they honestly didn't need it the way that the offensive line performed and their emphasis on the run game. That would be my number one takeaway is the run game. Credit to our guy, Chase Sr. He had the stat here, 44 carries, 268 yards on the ground for the Eagles. Kenny Gainwell had a career high, over 100-plus yards and a touchdown. And Boston Scott had a touchdown against the Giants. Who would have thought it? I love this bit. I just can't get over the fact that this keeps happening. And the crowd, after Dallas Goedert got tackled at the 2-yard line and Boston Scott was in the game, we knew it was going, and everybody was chanting Boston Scott and singing his name. Everybody knew it was coming. It was insane, and I can't believe that it keeps happening. But their commitment to the run game, their emphasis on winning at the line of scrimmage was huge for us because I think in the past month of the season, whether Gardner or Jalen has been the quarterback, it's almost like we're throwing it too much. In the game where Jalen got hurt in Chicago, we're saying to ourselves, all right, it's 12 degrees, it's windy, it's cold. Why are you playing this game with a game script like you're playing in a dome and dropping back to throw this many times? And then again, the first half against the Saints, all right, you have a backup quarterback. Why are you throwing so much? Why is Gardner Minshew on the first drive of the game going back to pass 3 straight times? Why does Miles Sanders have 3 carries at halftime? Well, that was not the case on Saturday night. It was clear, and I think the biggest thing to me, it's such a small detail, but this stuck out to me. I can't remember the last time the Eagles started a game with a run. It's Jalen in shotgun, and it's getting back, and they're throwing the ball. It doesn't always have to be a home run on first down, but they always throw the ball on first down. They started with a run, and it was 2nd and 8. And you'll never think anything of this. Miles Sanders carry for 2 yards. Why even think anything of it? Well, it was because from play 1, they were committed to the run game. And I think it opened up everything else and made the game a lot easier for a quarterback who's coming off an injury and an offensive tackle who's also coming off an injury. So you go straight from that play, just a simple run up the middle, 2nd and 8, to all of a sudden, second play of the game, play action. You have the one-on-one to Devontae Smith, and it was one of your biggest plays of the day. It was easy. Within the first 2 plays, you could tell what the emphasis was. It was run, setting up the pass. And for a long time, we were talking about they're just passing to set up more passes, and they don't have a balance. Well, I think it puts a lot of trust back in your coaching staff that they had a game plan like that where they knew that they could win at the line of scrimmage. They knew that they were better. They knew their offensive line was going to pulverize them, and they did. 44 carries, 268 yards. Kenny Gainwell's going for 9 yards a clip. I just was really pleased with the execution from that standpoint of knowing you're better, knowing your strengths, and playing to them. No matter what sport it is, you play to the strengths and the weaknesses, and that's how you win playoff games. You find the weak link and you attack them. And I will not say that Dexter Lawrence is a weak link. He's a great player. I'm sure you saw the stat from Elliott Shore Parks. He recorded 0 sacks against the Eagles this season, 0 tackles for loss, and 1 QB hurry. Jason Kelce is a Hall of Famer. It's over. The conversation is done. It doesn't matter what happens at the end of this year. If they win another Super Bowl or not, he's a Hall of Famer. It's over. So that was my main takeaway. Obviously, we can get into it. The return of Dallas Goedert, where he was out, then Jalen was out, and you almost kind of forget about him. And it feels like this Eagles team has kind of gotten forgot about too. And he's like one of those links that you're like, oh yeah, like we haven't really seen or heard from him too much just because he was hurt, Jalen was hurt, and then the team had a bye week. Well, he was back. Sick one-handed catch for the touchdown. That was awesome. And you could tell that they were trying to utilize him against a team that has pretty weak linebackers. The poor Jalen Smith trying to catch Jalen Hurts running to the corner it was sad, unfortunately. So yeah, I just thought like the emphasis on their weapons, the run game emphasis was incredible. And then on defense. Okay. I'm going to do one more victory lap on the Vikings thing. Kevin and I, have talked about it all year. From week 2, we knew who the Minnesota Vikings were, and we knew that they were frauds. They were the 29th ranked defense in the NFL. That's why the Giants looked good last week, because they were playing a defense that if they didn't have Justin Jefferson on the other side, would be picking in the top 5 in the draft. They'd be talking about Will Anderson right now with that defense if the offense wasn't where it was at. It was a horrible defense. That's why the Giants looked the way they did last week. It wasn't because they're these up-and-coming hot team. You don't want to face them. Momentum at the right time for the Giants. No. The Eagles won 14 games this year. They dropped 48 on this team and shut them down a month ago. The reason that the Giants looked like they belonged last week is because of who they were playing. And you saw this week, especially when matched up with our defensive line, they did not belong. This was where the road ended. It was never close. Like this, the talent gap was very noticeable. The Giants were not pretenders, but the Vikings were. And that's why people had hope in the Giants, is because they saw what they did to a playoff team, a 12-win team, and they were like, wow, if they could go on the road and do that, who says that they couldn't do it again? Talent says that. And the Eagles had way more of it. Shout out to Hassan Reddick, where he was just living in the backfield. Again, he forced the incompletion on Daniel Jones on the 4th and 8, which I think was the loudest that the stadium was at the entire game. It was incredible. And I am the most unbiased Eagles fan when it comes to Micah Parsons because of the whole hometown thing, and we're rooting for him and want him to succeed no matter where he is. But at first, I didn't think the conversation was legitimate, Micah versus Hassan. We got to have the conversation now. I really think that Hassan Reddick might be, at least this year, has been more impactful than Micah Parsons. As crazy as it is to say, but it's true. So I again, the defensive line, and we're going to get into, they're playing the 49ers next week. Brock Purdy coming in. I just think if you're power ranking the position groups that you trust the most from the Eagles, I think number 1 would be the defensive line. Like the way they're just getting after the quarterback and have so many different weapons to do it. I remember one play the entire game where it felt like Daniel Jones had too much time. And the rest of it, it just felt like it was just running and not even running like we're used to seeing him, where he's good on the designed runs and using plays for his legs. He was just running for his life. The only play, and it was my guy, Jordan Davis, like fell down and got blocked. And I'm like, Jordan, what are you doing? Buddy, you're 325 pounds. Kill this guy. What are you doing on your ass right now? It was pretty funny. And that was the only play I remember where he actually had time and completed a pass. And there was one Saquon run where, shout out to Marcus Epps for chasing him down. It's another game where Saquon doesn't go off against the Eagles. It continues to be that way. The Giants still haven't won here since 2013. It is what it is at this point. And I watched this defensive line. They're showing the highlights on the TV, and Hassan Reddick is just all over the place. It is insane what he's able to do. And that makes you trust them. Brock Purdy is not your typical rookie quarterback at this point. Like, you don't win 12 games in a row on a whim. And it really doesn't matter. I know, like, he's got Debo, he's got Christian McCaffrey, he's got all of these weapons, but he's not normal, but at the same time, I want to see him going up against Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat on the other side, and then you rotate in Brandon Graham. Then in the middle, you have Javon Hargrave, and there are just so many like different rotations that they have that are really helps this team. So that comes to it. It's Eagles and it's 49ers. And here's the analogy I'll use because people have asked me, who would you rather play all week? And for months, actually. Would you rather play the 49ers or the Cowboys? 49ers are a way more talented team than the Cowboys. I just couldn't handle psychologically losing to the Cowboys, and that's why I said 49ers. But here's where I really think about it. These are the two best teams in the NFC. The four best teams in the NFL made it to the championship games. It's pretty evident. There were no flukes. These were the four best teams, and it was obvious for months. The 49ers have won 12 straight. The Bengals have won 10 straight. The Eagles have won 14 games for the first time in their franchise history, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs. It is Patrick Mahomes, and they're here every year. These are the four best teams. And the curiosity of that moment really intrigues me, where it's like, all right, yeah, I want to know if we're better than the 49ers. Like, I want to really know. Like, are we the best team in the NFC? When I was little, there's these creeks behind my friends' houses, and they were next door neighbors, and the older kids would always run down there, and they'd be playing in there, and they'd be in the woods in this creek. And when you're little, you see the cool kids doing it, and they're allowed down there, and you think to yourself, all right, well, where does the creek go? Like, when you're in the woods, where does it lead to? That's how I feel playing the 49ers. Where does this creek go? Like, how far does this team go in the Eagles? Are they better than the 49ers? What happens in the woods? What happens when you're on the field with the 49ers and matched up with George Kittle? I just need to know for the sake of my curiosity. So I'm glad that this is the matchup from a fan point of view, from a podcaster. If we would have had a freaking Birds vs. Boys NFC championship, the numbers would have been insane. But come on, couldn't get it. So I'm really excited for this matchup. And just, I think it'll be a great weekend of football with those two games. I think these are four incredible teams, and all four of these teams could win the Super Bowl. Now, we'll talk about the Cowboys for a little bit. I know I'm not the guy who should be given the eulogy for the season. I'm happy to grave dance, though, and I will for a little bit. But we'll do a regular show, and Kevin will talk about it a little bit and everything like that. And I'll just say this, because the reaction to the Cowboys season is, well, Dak failed them again in a playoff game. And when you look at it in a narrow lens, that is true. He did not play well yesterday, and they lost, and they mustered up 12 points in a game that was winnable for them. And I will be doing the Anthony Richardson hype train to Dallas all offseason. It's getting legs already, and I'm going to be at the forefront of it. Anthony Richardson to the Cowboys, reset your cap and work it out with him. But the Cowboys failed Dak Prescott this year way more than Dak failed the Cowboys. They failed him before the season even started. They have traded their best receiver away to the Browns for a 5th round pick. The Cardinals gave up a 1st round pick for Hollywood Brown. So you got no return for your best receiver and never replaced him. So you basically ran out the same receiving corps as last year without your best one. How was he ever supposed to succeed with that? And then you also have a ton of money committed to Zeke Elliott, who is your 2nd best running back. And this transition has been painful to watch, where Tony Pollard is so clearly and evidently better than Zeke, and yet they're still trying to do this split. And yeah, Zeke still serves a purpose. He's not a corpse. He's not that bad. But we know, right? Like, we know he's better. And that's why I think when Tony Pollard left that game with the ankle sprain and the broken leg, it was over at that point. Because the Cowboys didn't have enough weapons, and they haven't had enough weapons all year. Tony Pollard might not be your most he's your most electric playmaker, but he's not your best playmaker, because that's CeeDee Lamb. But to lose that home run play, to lose that burst that Pollard provides, and really have no other formidable options aside from CeeDee Lamb out there, when Gallup has struggled all year, and Dalton Schultz made many mental mistakes yesterday, especially not getting his foot down. And you just see, like, they failed from the start. And Dak will take the brunt of it, and I'll be Anthony Richardson guy all year long. But we know, like, this was doomed from the start, because they did not surround their quarterback with enough playmaking. The Eagles did the opposite. They went out and got A.J. Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith last year. They committed financially to Dallas Goedert. They've committed financially to this offensive line. They drafted Kenny Gainwell after they drafted Miles Sanders. Like, they committed to making sure that if Jalen Hurts failed, it was because Jalen Hurts wasn't good. And that's it. And the Cowboys simply did not do that with Dak Prescott, and that is why they're home, and that is why they're not better than the 49ers or the Eagles. You can be mad at Dak all you want. You can be mad at Dalton Schultz for not getting his foot down. You can reasonably be mad at that play call at the end of the game because, once again, the attention to detail that this team plays with is like an ADHD squirrel. That is the level of attention to detail that the Cowboys play with. But in the end, it is the front office who does this. So that is a wrap on divisional round weekend. The Eagles advance. I am so excited. Lincoln Financial Field will be rocking again for an NFC championship game. And hey, let's do a three-peat. Let's do another 38-7 playoff game at the Link. Why not? We'll see you then. Make sure to subscribe. We have a ton of content that's been on our Twitter page at Birds vs. Boys Pod for the past week or so that we've been really churning out with our teams in the playoffs. We'll have a regular show this week. We'll see if we can grab some guests for you here on YouTube, and subscribe anywhere. If you want to listen, it'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you can listen. And most importantly, we're doing YouTube videos as much as we can this week. So we will see you then. We will talk to you then. The Eagles advance 7 in my lifetime, 7 NFC championships. It's not easy to do, but again, we've done it 7 times. All right, we'll talk to you then.